Hi everyone, welcome back to another edition of Ask the Rabbi. Fantastic question from Lucy. Thank you so much for sending. So the question is, what is the origin and significance of Lag BaOmer, the 33rd day of the Omer period that we are currently counting? Now, just to make clear, biblically, as in Torah law, in very ancient times, the Omer was a period of 7 weeks between Pesach and Shavuot that would have been counted irrespective of any later customs that we now have to have some level of mourning, such as no weddings, no live music. You'll notice that I won't be shaving for Shabbat, no haircuts and things like that. So where did all that develop from? And why is it that Lag BaOmer became a day of happiness and celebration when for many the custom to observe that mourning comes to an end? So we're going to skip forward in Jewish history from biblical times to the same time of year, the Omer, between Pesach and Shavuot, but approximately 2,000 years ago. And we're going to focus on a great sage called Rabbi Akiva. Now, the Talmud teaches us, you've probably heard of Rabbi Akiva. I think Bnei Akiva is named after him. If it's not, correct me in the comments. But the Talmud teaches us that during the period of time of the Omer, between Pesach and Shavuot, Rabbi Akiva had 24,000 students. Now, it's unlikely he would have taught all of those students like personally, directly, like don't have time of day, not enough hours in the day to do that. But he'd set up a network of yeshivas, a network of Talmudic colleges, which blossomed and mushroomed and grew through his leadership and direction until they'd attracted 24,000 students. Now, at the time, the center of Jewish life, remember, this is after the destruction of the Second Temple and the sacking of Jerusalem. So the center of Jewish life in Israel at the time was concentrated mainly along the coastal plains and up in the Galil. So this story takes place in the Galil, essentially, around 2,000 years ago. The Talmud tells us that all 24,000 of Rabbi Akiva's students died in a mysterious plague. Now, the scientific or natural explanation of why that happened was it was a time of great poverty, it was a time of tremendous war and conflict, and unfortunately, in the ancient world, plague was rife if those conditions were present. That's the sort of physical explanation. The metaphysical explanation, the spiritual explanation that the Talmud teaches us is that these students died shelo nahagu kavod zeh lazeh. They did not treat each other with respect. And the punishment may seem harsh, they all lost their lives, and indeed it was, but it came with a crucial message. And it's because of this message, I believe, even though throughout Jewish history, many, many great and important people have died or have been killed, and we don't observe their deaths with days of mourning or periods of mourning. We do this time. Manishtana, what's the difference? I believe the difference is within the message of their deaths came a clarion call to the entire nation to say that we've just seen the temple destroyed. We've just seen the razing of Jerusalem, the holy city, our capital city, by the Roman Empire, and we haven't learned our lesson. And the internal conflict and baseless hatred that defined the the era that was before the destruction of the Second Temple, we still hadn't gotten the hint. And these 24,000 students who were meant to be role models for the entire nation, they failed to show each other decency, dignity, and respect. And because of that, they lost their lives. So we're not just mourning the loss of so many lives, we're also mourning the fact that the loss was caused by a fundamental misstep on the part of the entire nation, that we just failed to learn the lessons of the temple's destruction. And forgive me, but I can't help but draw parallels to the current situation in Israel. Of course, our primary focus has to be on our homeland's external enemies, and of course, October 7th drew those into stark relief for us, but we have to be strong and brave enough to say that the internal conflicts that divide Israeli society and pit Jew against Jew have to stop. It has to come to an end. We also have to learn the lesson that Rabbi Akiva's students failed to learn of how to treat each other with decency, dignity, and respect, even if we disagree. It's fine to disagree. It's not fine for that disagreement to become hatred. And I think that's a message we could all take for this time of year. But to sum up, the reason why Lag BaOmer, the 33rd day of this period, is a day of celebration is that our tradition teaches us that his students, Rabbi Akiva's students, stopped dying on that day. And the second reason is that despite losing everything he'd built so carefully and with so much dedication after the temple's destruction, instead of giving up hope and despairing, Rabbi Akiva picked himself up. He was already quite old at this time. he moved his yeshiva down to the Negev, to a place that was far away from the conflict and all the politics, and he handpicked 5 new students through whom Judaism would be reborn. And if you're familiar with the Mishnah, most of the names you encounter in the Mishnayot that we learn are either these 5 students or their students. So Rabbi Akiva essentially saved Judaism, and we celebrate that on Lag BaOmer, and specifically because one of his students was a great sage, kind of recognized as the founder of Kabbalah, called Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's Yahrzeit, or his Hilulah, as it's referred to more commonly, his death, the anniversary of his death, falls on Lag BaOmer. So what we're celebrating with those the bonfires, which obviously, we have to be careful how we speak. There's terrible wildfires raging in Israel at the moment. We celebrate through those bonfires the light of his Torah, the energy that Rabbi Akiva showed, the passion that he showed to pick himself up and carry on and reestablish Judaism as we know it, with his 5 new Talmidim, his 5 new students. And that's why Lag BaOmer is marked as a day of celebration and almost of relief that we got a second chance to have a go again. Have a good Shabbos. See you soon.